Okay, so it's the next day now, and we have gotten in, well, supposedly everything. This is the second one of the case that we received in that was damaged, the Thermaltake H18. So I am kind of curious as to how that looks, whether or not it's gonna be damaged as well or not. But I'll look at that in a minute. I'm gonna bust open these boxes now and make sure that essentially everything that was supposed to come in today actually did get here today. So here is 2 more power supplies. These are 430 watt power supplies. These will go into the office PCs. So that's good. So we did get those in. Got it right out there. And in this box we have, oh yeah, this looks like this is about for everything. Alright, all 3 processors. There's more SSDs over there, some RAM, more RAM, and this looks like the motherboard that I was waiting on. So yeah, this is basically everything. So I suppose what we're going to start with then is we're going to start with the, I guess, the easier ones to do. Right now we're going to grab those 2 boards that I have over there for the office PCs. We'll grab out the 2 Ryzen 3 3200Gs. I was wrong. I said 34. It's 32. Probably the better deal. Anyways, we'll grab the RAM for those here. And let's see, that's not for that. That's for the other one. Alright, we'll grab those out and we'll do those too. We'll go ahead and grab the boards for those. 1 and 2. Got those here. We'll be asking why we have 2 separate boards. Because we were limited on the number of each one of these that we could actually order at one time. So instead of ordering one and then waiting and ordering another one like a few minutes later, which would have been, you know, probably shady. So I was like, whatever, I'll just get 2 different boards. It'll give me 2 separate things to look at and something to compare them to as I go along. So that's cool. 3200 megahertz DDR3. So that's good. Or DDR4, I said 3, didn't I? Oh yeah, DDR4, 3200 megahertz. These are G-Skills sticks. So that's good. And this. 2 SSDs for those are here. So let's get those 2 SSDs into those 2 systems once we get them going. And everything is good. So before I do that, anyways, let's get started with actually putting together one of the other systems. I've used the ASRock B450 Pro 4 before, so let me try the Asus one now. Just be different. Get this out of the box. One of these. Possibly. Not that. Alright. That is that. Do that right away. Ryzen 3 3200L open. Anti-static back down. this in just a moment. Alright, so I'm back here now. I'm going to do first, I'm going to stick the processor into this board. Being careful not to touch the pins. Remembering that the processor has the golden triangle on it. And down here, and match that up with the not so golden triangle on this piece here. Lift the retention arm. Gently drop the processor into place. And it should not need any type of pressure. Push the arm down. Make sure that it's snug. We're good. Alrighty. Now, in order to this now, we need to see this thing. You'll notice on the bottom of this slot cooler that comes with this computer, they've already pre-applied thermal paste to here. This cooler is not one of the clamp kind, which would clamp onto these arms that are here. This just screws straight down into the board. Or accurately like that, because it's holding it wrong. But screw straight down into the board. So what we have to do to prepare for this is to take off these brackets here, which is pretty easy to do. Just take those 4 screws out and you're good to go. What I like to do with these is just drop these into this box in case I ever need them again later. I'll know where they're at. Take this. And decide which way this thing's going to face. So I'll put it this way or this way. I'll go ahead and put it this way. Where I want to do it. Alright. I will crisscross to tighten this thing down. A tiny bit there. A bit there. A bit here. A tiny bit on this side. This is my protection. Back and do this all the way down now. This side all the way down now. Here, down, and back to here. Finish the bit. All the way down. Okay, doesn't matter. All that's on there. Look at the top of this board here. See, you've got CPU fan and CPU fan 2. Drop this bad boy onto CPU fan, then this wire, try to do something to hide that. Maybe it'll go this way a little bit. Hide over there. So, there we go. So, kind of just hiding this wire a little bit into the plastic lip that we got there. And I don't have any fans or anything, so we're good there. Like I said, now I need to drop in some RAM. Still going to be fun. Fun for everyone. Usually we go, let's see what you got. A1, A2, B1, B2. So on this here, we're going to go to the black two right here. So the first one and the third one. We're going to A1 and B1. That and like that. So, and that is okay. This drive is not going to have windows or anything like that on it, out of the box, but let's go with this. Be stuck into a system and basically be a complete system now, because no GPU, because that's handled by the APU and the processor. We got the RAM, just need power supply and case port, which are both over yonder. So what I'm going to do right now is open one of those power supplies and go ahead and test this board to make sure that it gives me a signal on the other side and make sure that everything is good before I get too far. So, why only a 430 watt? Why not get a 500 watt or a 550 so that it can be upgraded later if it needs to be? My answer to that would be because I know exactly where these computers are going, and I know that they will never be upgraded in a time when they are actually still relevant. So, yeah. They don't need a bigger one. They're not going to use one. And for this place that these are going to ever replace these computers, they will basically have to not work at all anymore. So there's no point in giving them an upgrade path that they're never going to take. So save a little bit of money on that with the smaller power supply. This is more than enough to run general office tasks that they will be doing with these things. So that's why I went with what the lecture was. This will not be a spaghetti strap. Holy cow. So many wires. There's also another drawback of cheap systems is this is not a modular power supply. So that means that once this is put into a system, I have to hide this many wires somewhere else. Which will be fine, because I think in the cases that I picked for these, I will have plenty of room to do that in. But if you are building a smaller system such as this, and you do pick a different case other than one of the ones that I picked, then just keep in mind that you're going to want to make sure that you are going to want to make sure that whenever you put all this into your case, that you're going to have enough room to store all those wires and hide them properly. And I don't know where I'm going to this thing up to. Should have went that way. That is not the one that I'm looking for. All behind everything? So many wires! because I don't need it right this second. I need to grab plugins for the mouse and the keyboard here. And here. And make sure that we have the keyboard and the mouse. Alright, so on this cheap board here, we will need to find the front panel. I believe this is our front panel connector. With the tiny screwdriver. Let's see about turning this bad boy on right here. Alright, so fans come on. That's good. Let's monitor around and see if we get post. Put it to the correct input, and we are getting post. We're going to go ahead and do some configuration while we're here at this point. Everything should be fine as it is. So let's go with this nice DOCP. We are going to file 1 so that we get all the proper stuff from there. That's one of the things that you definitely want to check whenever you buy a RAM that is rated for a certain speed. You get DDR 3000, 3200, 3600 speed. By default, that will not be running at that speed when you stick it into your board. You have to actually go in and enable DOCP on an AMD system, or if you're on an Intel system, you will want to enable XMP to make sure that you're actually running at those speeds that you're advertised. If you paid extra for it, you should definitely get it. If you're not going to turn that on, save yourself some time and money and buy the cheaper RAM. Alright, so we'll save and exit now. Okay. And make sure that we still get a post. Because technically that is considered to be an overclock, even though I might personally disagree with it, but it is still technically an overclock. You're taking something that was set to run at a specific given speed and you've changed that to run at a different speed. The speed that's on the RAM isn't what it's programmed to run at, that's what it's rated to run at. So by changing those numbers, you're technically overclocking. And since all of the memory controllers are handled by the CPU, that makes it a quote-unquote CPU overclock. So, anyhow, whenever you do that, just make sure that you get a post. Long story short. And for some reason, we did not get a post whenever I overclocked that RAM. Or made the DOCP. So, posted in safe mode. Let's try that one more time. Try that one more time. Alright, so looks like that is not going to work for us. We will, for some reason, aren't able to get it that high. It's immediately filling, we're not even getting into post. Alright, so let's go back in and turn that off. cry the sad tears of sadness because we're really hoping to get that at its correct and proper speed. Alright, so troubleshooting for this is going to go a little bit beyond the scope of this video, so instead of wasting more time doing that, we are in fact actually posting, so we will just go with the defaults and get this done as quickly as possible, and then I will troubleshoot that later to get the things running at their correct speeds. There we go. Alright, so now that is together, everything's good, tested out fine. Move this over. I'll leave that one plugged in because I will end up needing it again when I test the next one out. And I'll just grab the other power supply. And let's see, this one was going into Cooler Master Case. I have used this case before. The last office PC that I built for these guys also went into the same case. Unfortunately, both of these two systems that we're building today won't be going into this case. Again, due to limitations on what I could and couldn't order. For Amazon, which is not necessarily their fault. Supply of things are being limited right now by people's ability to actually go to work and produce these items and ship them and all of these other things. So, no fault to Amazon or anything like that, but I could not get more than one of them. And again, I didn't want to be malicious and just order one and then wait 5 minutes and order the next one on like a separate order or anything shady like that, so we just got different stuff. We followed the rules. Take the back side off this before we get too far. I'm going to snap these things off too because I don't want them ending up something torn or something the time that I flip this thing half a dozen times. Not even half a dozen, more like a dozen. Okay, so apparently my camera shut off while I was installing the SSD. So that is one of the drawbacks of recording on a Sony Alpha camera. These cameras are amazing taking photos. They're really, really good for live streaming whenever you hook them to your computer and allow your computer to do the processing of the video. But as soon as you start recording to the internal SD card on one of these cameras, they freak out and turn themselves off because Sony did not put a lot of effort into the cooling of these cameras. To their credit, they weren't intended to be video cameras. They were just cameras that had video as a option. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and assemble this computer. We've already built one in this case. Very similar to this previously, so I will just get back with you guys after all of this is put together and we're good to go again. We'll talk about anything that happened along the way. If something comes up, I will turn the camera back on and talk about it as it happens, but otherwise we'll just talk at the end of the thing. Okay, I'm back with this computer here. We've got it put together now. Everything wired up, stuck into place. As far as cable management goes, this is a rather thick backside, so all of this is actually going to go right behind the thing just fine, and you won't actually be able to see all of that from the other side, especially once you put the tinted glass panel back on, or not glass, tinted whatever it's made out of, panel back on here. So that's actually fine. They supplied me with exactly as many cable ties as what I was going to need to manage this giant bunch of wires back here, which was circumvented by my own self by forgetting to leave one of these wires loose to plug the SSD into, which means that I had to cut one of them, which means that now it's one short of being exactly as many as I needed, but we were able to get everything back in here anyways, so that turned out fine. Now I'm going to put the sides back onto here. And this side right here just so happens to fit either way that you want to put it on there. It's actually pretty square. So, doesn't really matter which way it goes on, we'll just put it together. But the side that has the rubber feet on it on this side, because this case can be laid down if you want to. And these little rubber pieces that are on these screws act as the feet if you do it that way. Which I think is pretty neat. I think more of these smaller cases should do something similar to that. In case people want to lay them down. Accidentally break this plexiglass here. So, make sure that I drop these things back on there. Like that. Stay on it. I'm not sure that you can still see the monitor from over there, so we will move you guys to here, where you should be able to see a lot better here, I think. Alright, so reboot and select proper boot device or insert media. Yeah, that's fine because we didn't install Windows yet. And I did not bring, nope, didn't bring it. Alright, I'll delete to escape out of that. And we will go and try to So, as we can see, back into the system here, and it's working fine, recognizing our SSD there. The time is not actually correct. And today is the 8th. Save and exit. Guess we'll save it. And there we go. Alright. So what did I run into when I was putting this together? Realistically, I didn't run into anything that I didn't already expect. Said we built in this case before, and everything turned out exactly like I expected it to. So yeah, that is that one, and it is good to go now. We'll have to install Windows on that later after I get the other one put together and see how that goes. I think the RAM, we'll have to work through that later as well. So right now I've got 3 systems to put together, so we'll work through this as we get further along. Alright, if you like what you're seeing so far, don't forget to like, subscribe if you want to see more, dislike if you don't, and see you next time.